Hey guys, this is a video intended for people looking to buy, if not their first camera, certainly that maybe their first move-up camera. They're trying to get more into doing YouTube videos or photography on a more serious level, or just video work on a more serious level. This is not intended for professional photographers or people that have been doing this for years. Honestly, a lot of you guys have forgotten more about cameras than I will ever know. So a lot of what I'm about to say and advice I'm about to give a newcomer would likely infuriate you and just make you go crazy. I'm not going to argue details in the comment section because I don't know the details. All I'm going to do is walk, like I said, a new photographer through the journey I've been through over the last 3 or 4 years with my cameras, and explain the decisions that I've made and my reasoning behind making those decisions. So, with that said, what we're looking at here are two cameras. On the right, you have a Panasonic G7 with Comica microphone, as you see. And it's got one of the fancy straps on it. I can't remember who makes the strap, but I love it. I've got the smaller version on my LX10 right beside it, and I've got another blue one just like this on my FC2500 that's taking the video that you're currently looking at. But that's the Panasonic G7. This was probably the most popular camera in the world, literally, maybe in 2015, 2016. This is my LX10, which I've done videos about. This is a fairly new purchase for me. I love this camera. I've been making some modifications to it in the form of like the lens mate filter adapter you see there, and all the grip tape you see in various places on it. The camera is just, it's like picking up a solid block of polished metal. It's smaller than you think it's going to be. It's heavier and more solid than you think it's going to be, and it is slick as glass. So for me, this grip tape, and I've mentioned it now, this is the third video where I've mentioned this, but just a few cents worth of grip tape has made this camera 1,000 times more usable for me, and I think it would for anyone. You can actually, you feel more secure in holding the camera. That's the best way of putting it. You don't feel like you have to squeeze the camera to death just to keep it from sliding out of your hands. It's increased my confidence level with this camera just tremendously. So, I wanted to talk about some biases here and some information that you see when you see these camera reviews. I'm just putting the camera in the shot there just to give you all something to look at. But, when I was looking to buy a camera, my journey started about 5 years ago when a friend showed me a video that his wife had taken of a newly redecorated nursery in their home. And this video actually made it to HGTV and was shown on broadcast television that his wife had made. And I'm like, wow, what kind of camera does your wife have? And he said, I believe it was a Canon T3. It was either a Canon T3 or a Canon T5. This was about 2013. And I knew nothing about cameras and was completely unaware that you could shoot video with a DSLR. I did not know that was one of their capabilities. But I needed at the time to do some video work to promote a business that I owned, and I didn't like paying for it because I felt like I was paying a lot for the services I was getting. So I went out and looked at buying a camera just like the one that he had. And as I was looking at the camera, I found a camera kit at Walmart that had that camera and had a couple of lenses and accessories and whatnot in it, typical kit. And when I started thinking about the other lenses I would need and everything, it looked like I was going to end up spending $1,700 or $1,800 to get what I thought I needed, and that's more than I wanted to spend. I couldn't justify that. Let's just say it that way. So I just completely forgot about this entire idea for a year. A year later, I came back and went through the process just like I told you. I mean, I kind of started reading camera reviews and looking at different cameras that were popular. But every time I started doing the math and adding in the lenses and everything I would need, it just it went beyond a point that I was willing to invest in for something I didn't know how often I'd be using. And just as I was about to give up on it, I happened to run across a mention of a type of camera that I had not heard about previously, and that is a super zoom or a bridge camera. And I clicked on a link on one of the camera review sites and immediately found, I think it was a Nikon, something like a D900, and a Panasonic, a couple of different Panasonic bridge cameras. And I mean, as a newbie, I said, "Oh, this is exactly what I want. This is what I'm going to do." So I bought for roughly $400 a Panasonic FZ70, and was absolutely thrilled with it. Wonderful camera, amazing quality images that I could produce. I mean, I'm not a professional photographer. I put the thing on automatic and let it do its job, and it did a great job. Upgraded that about 2 years ago to the FZ80 so that I could have 4K capabilities. And this past year, I just kind of went a little bit crazy and upgraded, but this time my upgrades were based on things I knew that I needed. And my first upgrade is the camera that you're looking at right here, which was the G7. This was probably the most popular camera in the world, like I said, around 2015, maybe 2014, right when it came out. Absolutely amazing camera. And the features I was looking for, there were two features in particular that I wanted that the FZ80 did not have. One was the articulating screen that you have. I do a little bit of blogging, and having this screen so I can flip it around and see myself when I'm filming, even though I'm usually doing it off of a tripod, but having it so I can move things around and see what's going on is really essential. I mean, it's made my life so much easier. The other thing I wanted was sound input, and as you see here, I've got this Kamika mic attached. I've got two other mics. The mic I'm talking on right now is the larger version of this mic. It's a shotgun mic. Both mics are between $40 and $50, and I've been using them now for a couple of years, and I've been really pleased with it. As you see, this makes for a very portable kit. You're not dealing with much weight here. It's just been wonderful. Cannot say enough good things about this, except I left my tripod mount on the bottom there. But can't say enough good things about this camera. Phenomenal image quality. I read all the reviews talking about, oh, Micro Four Thirds, they don't have good low light capabilities. Panasonic's, they hunt when they're focusing. Okay, yeah, I got that. I have found ways to keep the hunting to a minimum. It's certainly not an issue now. In terms of low light capability, again, this is a semi-newbie photographer and myself talking to probably newbie photographers. Micro Four Thirds does offer reduced low light capability compared to a full frame camera, but a Micro Four Thirds camera like the G7 has low light capabilities that you couldn't buy for any price 10 years ago. Okay, so we are talking about splitting hairs here. I've taken, with this lens and this camera, as you see it, this is the 25mm Panasonic lens that everybody loves, f1.7. I've taken video with it in rooms that were lit completely by candles. I mean, an average, 12 by 12 foot room that has 2 or 3 candles in it, where to walk into that room unaided, you are going to bump into things. You can't see much of anything, but I can do video or photographs in that room that look like daytime. So unless you're doing something at the extremes, don't let these reviews carry you away when they say, oh, well, it doesn't have the low light capability of this other camera that's a full frame camera. They're not wrong, but they're comparing apples to oranges anyway. And ultimately, if you go online, just using the G7 as an example, you're going to find forums dedicated, completely to this camera. And they're literally filmmakers, people that do documentaries and make, motion pictures intended for public consumption on this camera. I was really shocked. I had no idea you could do anything like that. But there was one thread I followed for several months where the gentleman had 7 of these cameras mounted in rigs, and they were filming a documentary, which I subsequently saw at a film convention, and it was as high a quality video as I've seen in any movie anywhere at any time. So it's not the tool, it's the photographer, people. So you know, understand this camera right now, in kit form, I think it's coming with a 40 to 42 millimeter zoom lens, is under $500. Absolutely amazing. Okay, just absolutely positively amazing. Can't say enough good about this camera. The value is off the charts. I look at camera reviews all the time just out of curiosity now, and I don't know of a camera that to my mind has surpassed this one in terms of absolute value. This is just a tremendous camera. Shoots 4K, you know, gorgeous 4K, has, you know, everything in it that I need in a camera, has good battery life. Just, you know, again, nothing bad to say about this camera at all. But the one thing I wanted, or I thought I wanted, I think it's kind of funny, is that, and I'm like, okay, I've got this, but when I went out and tried to do vlogging in public, this camera drew a lot of attention. I'd put it on a little tripod beside me and be talking down to it on a side table, or I'd have it on a tripod and holding it at arm's length. And I had people that were just constantly sticking their head in or walking over to me and like, oh, are you taping? Oh, yes, I am. So thank you very much for interrupting. You know, I mean, it drew a lot of attention. And I thought, well, you know, what I need is a smaller camera. Why I thought a smaller camera would get rid of some of the attention, I don't know. But in any case, you know, I set my sights on an LX10, and that's what we've got right here. And went to the LX10 and love it. Okay, I know. I mean, I'm going to have a lot of praise here for these cameras, and but love this LX10. You hold it, it just feels like you're holding a quality piece of equipment. At least now that I put the grip tape on there so I can actually hang on to it. I was really surprised at its size when I got it. It is, you know, it is a small camera, which is what I was after. Hey, you know, I got exactly what I wanted. I read all the reviews for this camera, the Canon G7 Mark II, I believe it is, that a lot of vloggers use. Looked at that. Looked at the Sony equivalent of this camera, and I believe I'm getting the model number wrong, but I think it's the RX10 Model 4 or 5. I mean, they've got 6 of those now. So, you know, looked at those, and just to be honest with you, the Sony was never a serious consideration unless it had something that I just couldn't find in any other camera. The Sony wasn't a consideration because their version of this camera is about $350 more expensive, and other than the fact that theirs says Sony up here instead of Lumix, I don't see a reason for that. So I'm not interested in giving away a lot of money. As it is, I bought this camera for $547. I've spent $1 on friction tape. I've spent $25 on a LensMate filter adapter, and another $10 or $11 on this this nice wrist strap, and I'm done. I'm just as happy as I can be. Again, amazing picture quality on both these cameras. My G7, I believe, is a 16 megapixel. This is a 20 megapixel 1-inch sensor. G7 obviously is a micro four thirds sensor. Again, I'm not an expert enough to tell you which matters more, the size of the sensor or the number of megapixels. All I will tell you is that both these cameras take stunning photographs, stunning video that you'll have no issues with, and no excuses will need to be made for the quality of the images that they produce. Both are just amazing. Neither one of these cameras has any issues with overheating when shooting 4K video. The Sonys, pretty much across the board, all have issues with that, from their low-end cameras all the way up to their high-end cameras. you know, that's not something I wanted to deal with. I don't know how much of a factor it would have been for me, but it's not something I wanted to just have to worry about. Both of these cameras get really good battery life. One of the things I want to tell you, the camera I'm shooting on right now is an FZ2500 Panasonic, which is their high-end bridge camera now, and this is a recent purchase for me. I bought it specifically because it's just a video monster. I wanted a camera that I can live stream really high quality images from. You know, there were a number of features on this FZ2500 that I liked and that I wanted, so I got rid of the FZ80 that I had. Again, the 2500 I can't show you because I'm using it, but it has the articulating screen, so I can, you know, I can see myself if I'm filming off of a tripod. It has sound input. It has headphone outputs. It does anything you need. I mean, if you're looking for a camera primarily to be used for video, I think this one would probably be on your short list, or should be on your short list. And its photography capabilities are pretty impressive as well. Just to put things in perspective, when you hear reviews of modern camera equipment from any of the brand names, I mean, your Sonys, your Panasonic, Olympic, Nikon, Canon, if you're comparing apples to apples, in other words, if I'm comparing this camera to the Canon G7 Mark II, which is, I think they're within $20 of each other, you're going to find very similar capabilities, and a lot of the bias you hear, or a lot of the criticism you hear from people, it may be that, you know, this person's been using Canon cameras for 20 years. They have a relationship with Canon, the brand, and there's a certain bias there. I mean, if I've got 3 or 4 Canon cameras or camera bodies lined up on a shelf, and I've got 20 lenses that I've been collecting for years, you know, I'm probably not going to make a jump to Micro Four Thirds right now, or I'm probably not going to make a jump to a Sony with a full-size sensor, because I've got this huge investment. But I didn't have an investment. I was looking for the most bang for my buck, and I wanted the best camera I could get. And the Panasonic lineup, not just individual cameras, but the lineup, to me, there's a reason I continue to buy them, and I'm not at that point yet where I'm married to a brand. So it's not like I've got 3 or 4 lenses for this camera, but on Micro Four Thirds lenses, that's not a huge investment. I can jump to Sony, I can jump to Canon if I want to or need to. But what's kept me, if you will, following this Panasonic and Lumix line, is one, the quality of their screen display, which, well, that's not the screen there, but the quality of the display is second to none. It's bright, you can see it in the sunlight, it's well laid out, it is a world better than anything Sony's produced. It's better than anything on Canon. The Lumix app that lets me run these cameras remotely, you know, a free app is really amazing. I can run these cameras remotely off my phone, my iPad, and it gives me extensive capabilities in that regard. You know, I just, again, the commonalities here from camera to camera in this lineup, you know, the quality 4K video, the 4K features that are available, several, I didn't really know what they meant when I bought the camera, but I find that I use them a lot now, which is the ability to extract still pictures from 4K video. Being able to go to an event, I was at a swimming event just recently, and there was also a diving competition, and rather than sit there, even on burst mode, and try and catch in 8 shots or 10 shots someone diving off of a diving board, I was able to shoot video of the whole event in 4K and go back and extract individual frames out that it produces an 8 megapixel frame, which for viewing on a monitor or printing anything up to basically 8 by 11 is going to be more than adequate to give you a sharp and attractive image. So, you know, it's turned this newbie photographer into someone who can get action shots that it would have taken a pro and a pro's instinct and training to get, you know, on another camera that didn't have that capability. So there are a lot of things here that are really cool. I'm not out here shilling for Panasonic. I just want to tell you what attracted me to them and why I stick with them. The one camera I have that I bought that's not shown here, I have a G85 as well, which is kind of the big brother of this camera, and I bought it because I just felt like I needed that in-body image stabilization that this G7 doesn't offer. And the reason the camera isn't here right now is because I've loaned it to a friend, because I find that more often than not I still grab the G7. I don't have a problem with the shots and the type of work I do with a lot of image shakiness and stabilization issues. So I found that either shooting a short prime like the 25 that doesn't have stabilization built into the lens, or when shooting the couple of longer lenses I have that do have stabilization built in the lens, I have not found an issue with this camera producing a blurred or shaky image. And the image stabilization that's built into the LX10, I have been blown away by. I wasn't even thinking about it the other day and was out, you know, doing a video as I walked, and when I came back and was reviewing that video on the computer, the image was completely stable. I mean, it was almost like I was on a gimbal. So again, I was very pleased with it. So the G85 may be the one camera that I got here that you know, I probably didn't need to buy, to be perfectly honest with you. The one feature it has that I like is that it has unlimited video recording capabilities, as opposed to the 30-minute time limit that this camera and that this camera both have. That's one of those things that all cameras have now. It's not a Panasonic issue, it's across the board. It has something to do with European taxes, from what I understand. The two cameras, consumer cameras in the Panasonic lineup that don't have the 30-minute limit are the G85 that I mentioned, and also the FC2500 that I'm shooting on now. It will shoot to the capacity of your card. So it's, or in the case of the FC2500, I can live stream indefinitely. I've got one of the battery adapters, you know, fake batteries that goes in and plugs into the wall outlet, and I could essentially shoot video live streaming indefinitely with this camera, just like a broadcast camera. So that's pretty cool. And you know, I've explained some of the reasoning to you here, why I bought these different cameras. One of the things I want to point out is that, you know, I just said that the G85 is a camera that in hindsight I could have done without. And as much as I like this camera, and it's not going anywhere, I don't have any plans for it to disappear anytime soon, but knowing what I know now, and honestly I knew this before, but you know, I didn't pay attention to myself. I had that voice in the back of my head. I wanted this camera. I wanted to own this camera, so I found reasons to buy this camera. But this camera lacks one thing that all cameras in its class lack, and that is an audio input. You know, if I'm out here on a quiet day walking around, the mic's here located on the top of the camera. You can see the two little dots there. They actually do a very good job. They are sensitive. They pick up a lot of sound. I haven't gone to the wind muff thing that some people are doing. I don't like the idea of hair growing out of the top of my camera, but that may happen at some point in time. But you know, why the camera companies don't make a camera of this class that has otherwise totally professional features and performance levels, why they don't make a camera like this with an audio input is beyond me. I think this is their way of saying, you know, we want you to buy a bigger camera and a more expensive camera. And knowing what I know now, as strange as it sounds, coming full circle, I probably would just stick with my trusty G7 with the audio input and the mic. It's performed beautifully over time. It's not, you know, yes, it's definitely bigger than the LX10 that I just set aside, but it's not that much bigger. And I've practiced being intimidating and looking at people as they approach me with this evil eye that makes them go away. So you know, interruptions when I'm vlogging have you know, really toned down quite a bit. And you know, the audio input thing is a big deal. If you're going to vlog, if you're going to be outside, and if there's any wind or anything, you know, with the point and shoot camera, you're going to hear it. You know, certainly the workarounds with that. The whole idea though of doing a point and shoot camera is to kind of make things easy, and to put this on a bracket with say a Zoom H1 recorder, and then have to deal with syncing an audio track, that's probably not you know, something that most people who buy this camera are going to want to do. It's not something I wanted to do. So, you know, just bear that in mind. Again, nothing against the camera. You can't find a camera like this that has an audio input. This form factor just, I don't know of any brand that has it. So it's just, the camera companies have conspired against people who want to have a smaller camera and still want to have good audio. It's the deep state conspiracy from the camera companies working against us. So just bear that in mind. Just bringing this to a close, I want to point out that, you know, if you're looking at any of these cameras, you're going to need some accessories, and this is a Vanguard. It's a small little tripod. I thought I'd have it in frame here, but I don't. But this is a small Vanguard tripod. It extends to, I think, about 18 inches in height. I love this thing. All I can tell you is buy one. You're going to like it yourself. Trying to get it here so I can show you the model name. There you go. It's I want to say it's about 20 bucks on Amazon. This thing is strong like you won't believe. It is heavy plastic with some metal involved, but incredibly strong. And you can see, based on the backdrop I've got here, the brick, it's about 9 to 10 inches tall, so it'll fit in a lot of camera bags. It doesn't weigh much. I actually use this a lot more than I use my Gorilla tripod, the Joby Gorilla. This is because I do more stuff with in stationary situations, but this one in particular, I bought several small tripods, and this Vanguard really impressed me, and I have 2 of these now. So, you know, think about buying one of those as well. And this other little tripod here I want to show you, just in closing. You may have seen these. They're kind of hard to find on Amazon, but they're there, and they're there under different brand names. But this is about a $5 or $6 product. I'm seeing them now included in some kits, and it's just an afterthought. But I've gone back and purchased. I probably have 8 of these. I use it as a microphone stand. I use it as a light stand. This will hold like a Neewer, the CN160 lights. This will hold one of those perfectly. It does well for the camera up to the Micro Four Thirds size, that G7 I showed you. I'm not going to screw it on here, but it will hold this camera just fine. You know, I use it more often than not, actually, as a handle for kind of a selfie handle for the LX10. Either as a selfie handle or as a pistol grip handle when I want to, you know, walk through and show what's in front of me. I should point out this rotates and twists like that, so it makes a really nice pistol grip handle. Goes on the bottom of the camera, and you can walk around and point and shoot, and it just works well. And it's, like I said, it's $5.95. They sell under different brand names on Amazon. Just look for, you know, small tripod, and I'm sure you'll find it. But for $6, you know, this needs to be in your bag. I keep this and the LX10 in my briefcase. They go everywhere with me, and it makes, you know, a nice little mini tripod or a pistol grip for the camera, and it just works really well. But really, that's about it, guys. I just want to kind of show you the things I've gone through, the evolution, if you will, that I've gone through, and explain to you why I've bought the different cameras. You know, again, why I've chosen to stick with Panasonic for the time being. But, you know, whatever brand, if you have brand loyalty, whatever brand you choose, the cameras available today are absolutely phenomenal. So it got to me when I kept hearing people say, you know, bad things about low light capability or other features, when I knew that what they were talking about wasn't available at any price, you know, as recently as 5 or 10 years ago. And then now, for, like I said, for $500, you can buy a camera that just you know, you couldn't have bought this camera for $1 million 10 years ago, and now here it is for under $500, and it's easily accessible. So thank you for watching, and comment below.